All right, so you just drew 3 fish. Now let's say I wanted you to draw 10 fish. That would get very difficult very quickly, wouldn't it? So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce a new idea, and that is we're going to show you how to create your own functions. So far, we've been using a number of functions that are built into p5.js, right? So we've got create canvas, which we know has 2 arguments, where if I put, that'll be the width and height of my canvas. I can then add color if I want. Let's go with something like that and get kind of a yellowish canvas, right? All right, now let's say I wanted to make a pair of concentric circles, right? So like when we did Kandinsky, many of you had concentric circles, right? So if I do I can do a circle, which is 10 big. Oh, that's kind of small. Let's make it bigger. Not so bad, right? And then if I do another one with the same center point, I will now get a circle inside of a circle, right? Wait, how come I just have the one circle and not both circles? What? Wait, what is going on? Oh, wait, I know. So the first circle is smaller, and so it got drawn, and then the bigger circle got drawn on top of it. So if I actually just take this line of code and I move it, now I'll get a circle inside of a circle. And I can add some fills, right? Let's say I wanted a different color. Ooh, now I can make another color. Not so bad, right? So now I got these circles, but let's say I wanted to make multiple copies of these circles on the screen. So I wanted some right here, but then I wanted some right over here. I could do that, but I would have to recopy this code every single time that I do that. So instead, I'm going to show you a new thing. So far, the word fill is a function, and we can tell it's a function because it has parentheses. Circle is a function, and we can tell it is a function because it has parentheses. Background is a function, and we can tell it's a function because it has parentheses. Sensing a pattern here. Setup is a function, and we can tell because it has parentheses. All right, so I could actually, if I wanted to, come down here and have a new function and call it draw circles. And then whenever I create a function, I have to use the keyword function, the name of the function, and I could call this anything. Okay, I could call this Bob, and it would work. I don't want to do that because I want to make sure that when I use it, I know what it means. Then I have an open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and then an open curly brace, and sometime down below a closed curly brace. All right, so the first one tells us where the function starts, and the second one tells us where the function ends. So what I'm doing with this right here, lines 12 through 16 right here, we are creating a new word for the P5 language, basically, okay? It's kind of like if you were going to create a brand new word for the English language, and then you would write a definition of it and stick it in the dictionary, that word would now exist, right? So that's what we're doing. We're creating a dictionary entry for the word draw circles. Now, when we name words, you'll notice what P5 does is if it's 2 words smooshed together, the second word is always uppercase and the first word is always lowercase. This is not a requirement of the language. This is a convention that they've come up with. So when we create our own functions, we're going to do the same thing. It makes it a little easier to read rather than if it was just all lowercase. It would be harder to read that code, okay? So this is the code right here that it takes to draw my circles. So I'm going to take that out of here and I'm going to put it down in here. All right. So now, if I run it, I don't get any circles. Why don't I get any circles? So the other way that P5 works is setup runs one time when the program starts to run. The other functions don't run automatically. So built into the P5 language, when you click that play button, you're saying run setup automatically. That's what you do. But there's nothing to say run draw circle. It's just like if we took that entry for a new word and we stuck it in the dictionary, That doesn't mean we've used it. We haven't actually used that word in a sentence yet. We need to now use that word in a sentence, and we do that by calling the function. So when I write this line 3, background 220, 0, I'm calling the background function and I'm giving it some data. I'm going to call the draw circle function just by typing its name. Just like that. Not so bad, right? And now I can run it. And there we have our new circles, right? So now if I can run this function multiple times. So I could run it again. And nothing appears to happen, right? So what's going on? So what's happening here is the way this code works is we start executing line 1, we run line 1, then we run line 2. So we call the function setup and we run and then we create a canvas. So we call the create canvas function. Then we call the background function. Now I call the draw circles function. So now what happens is I jump from line 5 down to line 11. It says, hey, where's that draw circles function? Here it is. And then we come down and we do this. Then we change our fill. We draw the big circle, change our fill again. We draw the small circle. And then we get to this curly brace, and then we jump back to right where we left off. And then I run the next function. And again, in this case, it's draw circle again, so I draw exactly the same thing in exactly the same spot again. All right, so we're going to modify this function so that we can have one function for draw circles, and we can draw this pair of circles anywhere on the screen we want. All right? So how do we do that? Well, we're going to add parameters to our definition of draw circles. All right? And I'm going to have a parameter for the X and Y positions. So I'm going to call it X pos and Y pos. So far, so good. And then in here, I'm going to put these words in here. All right. So now I could run this and it's going to break, or nothing's going to happen, because the other thing I need to do is just like up here, I need to put in some numbers. So originally I had 100, 200, right? So if I run it again, I end up right back where I started from. But now if I write this again, and run it, what just happened? Oh, I didn't spell it right. Draw cir. I don't even know what the heck I did there. Drop the L. Bam, now we got it. So now I get the second one, right? And I could get a third one. As long as I can spell correctly. Man, I cannot type this morning. And I could have as many of these as I want just by, and if I want it in a different spot, I just changed the parameter that I give it. I changed the argument that I give it. So now what's happening? What's happening is this. Here we've basically created variables for the position of the circles. We've created variables to represent the X position and Y position of the circle. So far, so good. And so what happens when I call this function, 100 gets fed to xpos. So far, so good. And then everywhere xpos appears in here, the number 100 gets substituted. All right. The second number goes to this second variable, which we called ypos. So far, so good. So this goes to here, and then everywhere that ypos appears, it now becomes 200. Then the next time I call this function, xpos gets a value of 50, ypos gets a value of 300. And then I draw this at 50, 300, and so on throughout the whole program. This is how functions work. So I want you to play a little bit and see if you can reproduce what I did. And then we'll talk a little more.